Good morning. I'll be occasionally walking back over to my notes, by the way, because we're going to go into the weeds. External to the mic. Now we're good? Now everybody can hear me? All right. Hey, we caught it. Any time. Show of hands again on experience within PQC, quantum key distribution, quantum cryptography. And where's my crypto engineers, crypto developers in the room? I know you're here. All right. Hey, we got a few. So things have changed drastically over the recent years, days, well, actually now even hours. Even one of my slides is a little incorrect from Google's Willows project that occurred last week. We'll be going into that in a moment. Before I go in though, good morning. And similar to Krishna's talk, we're actually going to go into the bad train a little bit. And if you're walking into cybersecurity for the first time, please raise your hands if you're walking into this, into our sector, into the fight. Keep them all held really high because I'm really proud to see this. Really, you're walking in to a new frontier. Our world will change. All of it will change. Within post-quantum cryptography, how we implement key exchanges within our networks, our transport layers, you're going to see a whole new OSI, right, within 5 years. Thank you for joining this frontier with me. And so, starting off, I was a U.S. Army Cyber Warfare Officer for several years. Too many. I was a commander in the Cyber National Mission Forces. I've seen multi-spectrum cyber operations. First time I played defense, actually, was in private sector. And we talked a little bit about ransomware. We talked about AI. AI is accelerating our quantum journey, especially within supercomputing cluster arrays. And so with that, we're going to go way into the weeds. I'm going to talk a little bad on what's coming. And then ultimately, kind of at the end, maybe with 3 minutes to spare, I'll talk about some things that we can do about it, all right? So what's our timeline look like? Who here has heard of Q-Day? Raise your hands. Q-Day, Quantum Day. Quantum Day, 10 years ago, was theoretically a prediction of a hypothesis to land in 2035. As of 2 years ago, it was 2030. As of last week, it is now confirmed 2029. Confirmed. What does that really mean with Quantum Day? Well, that means we have quantum processors that are either centralized or distributed that can be accessed to break even our highest encryption keys that we have available. Now, yes, there's going to be a little difference between symmetric and asymmetric. We'll get into a little bit of that. But in terms of RSA, we can almost consider it crackable within 3 years' time. And so we have a measurement of the scale of how I've communicated on investments within your quantum security journey. And this is called Mosca's inequality metric. I also call this a theorem of immediate action as well. And essentially, it's a timeline. So basic mathematic formula that you can bring into your board, your city council, city commissioners, and your financial controllers. One of the best things, though, I've ever had in a conversation, and when you are making and pitching your investments into your budget cycles within quantum cybersecurity, and I've actually had this conversation recently with one of our CFOs, is why am I going to invest in something that I can't even look at and the data collapses? So you're telling me I got to spend a bunch of money, but if I look at the thing and the processor and the electron, it will collapse the data state. So why am I going to make an investment over something I can't even look at, right? But I actually want you to pay attention here on what's happening in this slide. And what's most important is that your data is already exposed. Either from the browser, web application, mobile application, and this is a very, very basic equation that proves this model. And it proves it for the city, it proves it at scale, and it proves it for every organization that I've been at. And so X is how long your data needs to stay confidential. Who here works in public sector or has a regulated compliance framework that you hold to? Yeah, both either or, right? HIPAA, GovRAMP, FedRAMP, SOC 2, ISO 27001, GDPR, CCPA. Do you want more acronyms? Because I can fire them off, right? When you become a CISO for so long, you either speak in acronyms or you go bald, and I haven't gone bald yet, but give it 5 years and I'm coming. And why? How long will it take your organization to complete a full platform post-quantum cryptography migration? And this isn't easy stuff, right? That's your long timeline right there, the actual migration curve. So we have a data compliance, how long our data needs to stay secure, and anyone in cybersecurity wants to say forever. So that already negates the entire equation with a net zero effect. But now we also have the modernization journey of Y. If those two numbers are greater than Z, we've already lost because the data now is exposed. Why? Q-Day, 2029. We have 3 algorithms right now that can help protect us. I'll get into that in just a moment. But this is a good, healthy measurement on taking to your executive staff, your CISOs, your CIOs, your IT teams. Let's really talk about PQC real quick. because this is more than just a browser security issue or a transport layer security issue. We are talking full stack. We're going to get into what does that mean within full stack in just a moment. But this isn't theory. And I want to show you some evidence that it's actually already happening. Salt Typhoon, who's heard of this? Salt Typhoon, one of the largest data exploitation techniques, threat vectors that have been confirmed by 3 federal agencies. And by the way, this is still happening. Similar to Krishna, we're not picking on any country, just we know where attribution occurs from. And this one is a scary one, by the way. So we have more than 200 organizations compromised across 80 countries. And to be very specific, this organization, Salt Typhoon, infiltrated our telecommunications backbone, right? And how they did it is what flips the script of an attack vector. So this is actually a little bit new territory for all of us. In defense, offense, multi-spectrum, this is a little different territory. They can use your OEM security software against you in a way. So you're hearing a common theme of, in the future, of cybersecurity operations, security operation stacks. You have legacy data, you have fractured data silos, you have data lakes from different OEMs and third parties. You're walking into chaos out of the gate. And so I applaud you for walking into this world. But this chaos is slowly gaining some streamlined and clarity. We have orchestration for that. But what's most important on this one, though, when we talk about Salt Typhoon, is that the CALIA law enforcement intercept systems that the government mandates is the same system that was exploited. And so that became the entry vector, or the front door that we required became the very way into the exploit itself, especially for a persistent callback implant. Having been on the other side of this equation, this is pure genius from an attacker's perspective. So if you think attackers can outsmart you in every way or turn, I actually will submit to counter that proposal. It's us, but it does take the genius of curiosity. And it does take the genius of what's in you to not outsource your own intelligence. Leverage the systems that you have. You are brilliant. You can outsmart this attack vector. But it is coming, and it's coming systemically. And so, the important question is not necessarily what they stole, because that's what makes the headlines, right? We see the telecom records, we see the PII data. Clearly, that's bad news bears for anybody. And it's how they did it, right? How did they get into the front door of a law enforcement intercept application in a telecom backbone provider? And also, and we'll just put that on the side for a table for a moment, is even if your data has a high RSA key or AES 128, right, within your core data stack, your data protection layers, if that data is exposed, even right now, wait 5 years when a quantum processor can theoretically break that encryption, even with Grover's algorithm or Shor's algorithm. Grover's algorithm is now accelerating in its advancement. Shor's has already proven that RSA will become weak within 3 years, even the highest RSA key. Google's Willow project proved that last week, by the way. And we'll get into that because one of my slides is already wrong. So HNDL, harvest now, decrypt later. That's the how, right? Harvest now, decrypt later. Let me take your data. I'm going to store it offline. It's cheaper for me to store it offline, by the way, than active. Let me wait for that quantum processor to be in my hands or in a cloud service provider. So now I can actually exploit, decrypt, and use that data against you in however disadvantaged or adversarial way. And so Salt Typhoon, the previous slide, their advantage was not what they decrypted, it's what they retained. And they did it in 4 steps. Large steps. This took years, by the way, to pull off in planning. So step 1 was the foothold, right? We have persistent access. If you're just now joining the cybersecurity space, we love persistent access, callbacks, implants, right? How do we have persistent callbacks in a compromised account? Generally, we have security tools that can maintain that of calling back, hey, why are we calling back to some country in Romania right now? Or why are we calling back data to here when we have no customers here and no market share there? But they switched infrastructure. That is a big one for it, a TTP, or a standard operating procedure. I speak in acronyms quite a bit, so forgive me. A procedure of how they redirected their own redirectors so they can switch infrastructure autonomously to confuse your security tools. Step 2, capture a line rate. So when I say that is to evade your processes, right? It's the minimal data exfiltration versus this whole, terabyte data exfiltration, because your security tools will immediately block that, right, when they see it. But if I can just take just a little bit of data at a time from your network layer, your security tools most likely will not even have a clue what's happening here and how I've exfiltrated it to begin with. Step 3, wait. That's the big one. Harvest now, decrypt later. Let me wait till that processor is available. That processor, by the way, is anybody here a physicist or a quantum mechanic physicist? I'm sure you're here too, and you're just not raising your hand. So how quantum processors work, right? We are looking at an electron, generally from an aluminum atom. We have trapped an aluminum atom. We're watching that electron in a state of superposition. A state of superposition is in any states at the same time, and it's also difficult to measure, right? This is the new level of computing that we are going into. We saw Moore's law, right? When Moore's law would reach entropy, if we accelerated our computing scale within storage, now the game has changed. We are now looking at the nature of the universe so that we can compute it directly off of an electron. So that electron being in multiple states at the same time, we look at noise reduction, noise threshold, inference reduction. That's how we mathematically have our algorithms to secure our data, which is critical in how this whole operation works. So what I mean by an attacker waiting for a quantum processor, this processor can be at multiple states at the same time, looking at all of your key exchanges. It's tracking patterns, which is different. So if you've entered the space, you've been in the space for a while, by the way, you'll know if you've heard how long it'll take my encryption key using classical processors, classical computational devices. It would take, for an AES 128 key, I believe it would take anywhere approximately from 2 to 4 billion years old of time just to crack that key. AES 256 can actually exceed the age of the universe in time, 14 billion. Now with quantum processors, on the other hand, with multiple states in coexistence at the same time, that 14 billion years now becomes less than 1 hour in terms of cracking. This is the level of processor, the level of computation that's coming to us, coming to all of us, by the way. And we'll get into what we're going to do about it later. But right now, I want to set the stage for, again, the bad. Right? And so when we look at harvest now, decrypt later, we went through the 4 steps. And who here uses TLS 1.3 right now? Right? By the way, if you haven't done this yet, go into your developer tools if you're using Chrome or Edge or Firefox or Safari. And in developer tools, go into the network console right now if you want to. And you will see that you will have a TLS 1.3 connection already enabled. And you'll actually have a quantum algorithm there. It is Kyber crystals that's running right now at your edge. You can check it out right now if you want. But it's more than TLS 1.3, far more. If you're running 1.3, that's great. But now we're going to get into why even that is nowhere near effective at scale. So if someone steals your private key next year, forward secrecy means they simply cannot decrypt past sessions, which is precisely what 1.3 is designed for. So it's fantastic. Highly recommend it. It's already running most likely in your native browsers today. But here's what it doesn't do. It doesn't protect against anyone to record that handshake. Handshakes are the most critical element within your cryptographic inventory systems and indexes. And so it's a different problem, like radically different in problem. 1.3 protects against the future theft of long-term secrets. Then harvest now, decrypt later, exploits the handshake transcript itself. And this collection model is not limited just to one collection state, right? We have another one from Russia. Different actors, same patience model, APT 29. APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. Another acronym we got for you. Maybe we'll change these one day and make them a bit more user-friendly. And so in this particular one, by the way, more than 200 networks, the traffic was encrypted one at a time. And that takes a long time to pull off. And so SolarWinds proved that quiet dwell time could persist in months at enterprise scale, over 18,000 governments and networks, 18,000. No one is immune, by the way, no matter who you work for, no matter what university that you're at when you're studying, no one is immune to this compromise entirely at all. If you work for a security supplier company, right, such as Microsoft, AWS, Google, GCP, SentinelOne, no one is immune to this threat factor. Telecom providers, critical infrastructure providers. We in the city of Seattle, we have 3 critical infrastructure utilities. We have the full life cycle of power, generation, transmission, and distribution. We have water and wastewater and solid waste. We also have 1,200 intersections here across the entire city. No one's immune to this threat, right? And so this is one of the things that keeps me up at night now, waiting for the vanguard of 2029 and Q-Day. We don't just have to decrypt it today, and we went over that. Encrypted archives are forward-positioned intelligence. And so what makes quantum a little different from everything else we have faced? And this is where I'm going to go way in the weeds. I told you I was, right? So we talked about algorithms a bit. We're going to get into the defenses, but let's talk about actually what it does for a moment. And again, if you're a cryptologist and a crypto engineer, I'm sure you're going to see this slide and be like, yeah, I know, I got this. I studied that like 5 years ago. I'm like, yeah, I know. So Shor's algorithm. We're going to talk about two of them, by the way, Shor's algorithm and Grover's algorithm. It does not try to factor like a classical computing algorithm whatsoever within AES or RSA. It converts the factoring problem into a fundamentally different equation. And then we find hidden periods of modular arithmetic. And it really goes back to that. We also find quadratic formulas in there. But it uses quantum interference and inference, both. That is the key within superposition states of monitoring these electrons within these supercooled atoms, generally at 0 Kelvin. And specifically the inverse quantum Fourier transform. Way outside the scope, ask me questions on it. That serves as your measurable signal. That signal is your key in Shor's algorithm. And a critical distinction is that we try, in classical encryption, we try one number at a time, right? Brute force, one number at a time, one number at a time. We use the highest GPU, NVIDIA, AMD graphics cards. We do everything we possibly can to try one number and mathematical computation at a time to brute force our way in. How do I know that, Jake? Because, well, I've brute forced encryption before. And yes, it will take weeks, months, and at times, at my previous organization, years. But I say, well, how does it happen in weeks and days now of an algorithm that was meant to be protected for 2 to 4 billion years based off of legacy computational models and processors? But we work on the structure of how the encryption is designed. And now we go into patterns. Patterns are how we evade the existing encrypting modules that we use today. And so we find the answer by exploiting the pattern itself. That's why doubling your key size simply doesn't save you anymore, right? We had RSA 1000, we'll see RSA 2000s and 3000s and 4000s. And quantum encryption in PQC, off the table. It's irrelevant because we're looking now at patterns to brute force and hack the key itself. So you're facing a fundamentally different approach. Grover's algorithm, please look this up. I highly encourage you, take this away as a key item. Again, we're going to quadratics a little bit here. And that's why AES 256 right now survives the post-quantum migration or the quantum resistant era that we are about to enter into. It survives it mainly because we have roughly 128 bits of equivalent security. Shor is the existential threat. Grover right now is a manageable one, but it will be changing. Grover's algorithm will scale at 2029. And again, the hypothesis here, it's hard to predict these things. And if you're predicting something, you're already wrong out of the gate, right? So what is a prediction is that before 2040, AES will be exploited. And so let's talk about what breaks, what survives, right? So everything on the left is going to be broken by Shor's. Everything on the right, take that as a mental note that will sustain. Won't go through all of these, but I do want to add something that was not on this slide that happened last week. On March 30th, last week, Google Quantum AI published a white paper showing that breaking 256 elliptic curve, the same ECC that we probably use right today, ECDH, that protects every algorithm on the left-hand column that you see can be executed with fewer than 500,000 physical qubits. This is game-changing. This is completely game-changing in what was before to what is now. Also, another research paper was dropped on the same day, the very same day. An independent researcher out of Caltech published a preprint demonstrating that P256 elliptic curve, again, 256 bits, could fall in as few as 10,000 qubits on neutral atom architecture. This is also a new era of research within neutral atoms. That happened the same day. Yesterday, I'm sorry, 2 days ago now, but I built the slides in my deck. But 2 days ago now, Nature covered a period on both papers. And the headline was, and I'm paraphrasing, it's a real shock. Cloudflare, which protects roughly a quarter of the world's internet traffic, said they are very concerned, and that is not something you hear Cloudflare say a lot. So when you notice and you like that TLS 1.3 connection in your browser, you can thank Cloudflare and your primary internet gateway providers, to include your browser extension providers, for making that connection possible. When Cloudflare is waking up, a quarter of the internet's traffic going through their servers, now we should wake up to that noise. So one more detail worth noting is that Google considered their improved method too sensitive to publish in full. That means there's a lot of data that wasn't actually in there just yet. And so their results are validating zero knowledge proofs instead of disclosing the attack vectors. That's critical. I think Google did us a solid here on that one, even though we all want to know how they did it. But by publishing that, the same adversaries could have that same data and then attempt to exploit these quantum computers that we have now, and there are many of them. It's not just a rarity anymore. And by the way, we can also virtualize these inference patterns. That's one of the theories of how we will get to distributed quantum processing in your mobile device, right? I don't fully expect to see electrons at superconductive material cooled in your mobile devices in your pocket. You drop it, the atom gets off balance, right? But also, if you look at the atom, it will absolutely collapse the data state. So I do want to move on, though, very quickly into some PQC standards. And again, I have 5 minutes, so now I got to tell you a bunch of good stuff before we get on the rest of our day. This is a heavy, heavy slide. This is a take-home slide. I won't go through all of it, but I do want to say that we do have 3 approved algorithms from CNSA 2.0, and the memorandum will also be updated this year on improving Dilithium, which is another atom or another encryption lattice protocol that we use. Crystal's Kyber actually has 2 of them. We use lattice-based architectures within how we implement. And this is more of a reference slide on what they're used for, how you can look at and implement them at scale. But that really brings me to an even bigger problem, but the problem is solutionable. We got to make up our own words sometimes in cybersecurity. So I may say a few words we'll make up. And that brings us to, hey, you can't find what you can't migrate, right? And you're like, hey, how do I find my cryptographic inventory? Who here has ran a full C-bomb before? Cryptographic bill of materials analysis. If you haven't heard that, highly recommend you write that note down, C-bomb, especially if you're entering into the cybersecurity era now in our sector. Run these C-bombs. If you've run an A-bomb, application bill of material, S-bomb, software bill of material, looking at provenance and lineage of all of your architecture and systems, a cryptographic bill of materials, find your handshakes, find them. And this slide proves that one scanner alone doesn't find that, especially at your edge devices. Your scanners have to be ran internally. Find these handshakes in your core stacks. You might be surprised where they're actually running at right now. That was kind of that slide right there, kind of converged 1 into 2. But this is all you can do in terms of looking up where's your HSMs at, hardware security modules, have you upgraded them? I would highly recommend to eliminate tech debt at the same time as you're migrating towards your PQC or your quantum resistant journey. Here's an example, by the way. You may want to go back into your organization and ask, hey, is my HSMs and my data centers, hardware security modules again, are they FIPS 143, Federal Information Processing Standard, or are they FIPS 142? If they're FIPS 142, here's a hot tip. Upgrade to FIPS 140-3 and also enable a quantum resistant algorithm within your HSMs and your data centers. You just eliminated about 2 years of deplatforming tech debt and also scaled to begin your quantum readiness journey forward. And so again, we have buried crypto everywhere, right? In some of your critical applications, and one scan may not find that. So we have a tooling gap within how we implement these scanners. Do we even have teams that are dedicated to finding this? How are we working with our vendors? What is our suppliers doing? Have we even had the conversation with our core vendors and our OEM partners? If you haven't done that, have that conversation. We are doing that now in the city, where we have racked and stacked our critical vendors within our city infrastructure and have begun asking that same question. What's your PQC readiness journey look like? Hey, we have less than 3 years right now. What is it going to be? Let us help you design that. Let us help you architect this. I know this is a hard fight ahead of us, but today and together we can truly see this problem through because we have 3 years left to do it. And so before a full migration is even feasible, do all those things. And I'll be quick, but the first one is build your C-bomb, build your inventory. You don't know what to migrate until you know and actually can see it. Number 2, move your key exchange, right? Harvest now, decrypt later preys upon key exchanges across your stack. Again, application, data hosting strategies, microservices, APIs that may have key exchanges built into them or hard-coded within applications that are running with or within web application firewall. And third, we have to engineer our crypto agility at scale. We have to build this, we have to architect this, and we have to design it. And we have to design it in a way to prevent a full-on deplatforming experience. And so the timeline matters within our migration math, right? The Q-day zone, now is 2029, officially. And if you look at the sector sizes now, we're already too late, but that doesn't mean we stop. That means any new data that we create, that we invent, that we process, it can be protected for that tomorrow journey, that tomorrow fight. So, right, we just saw a slide earlier, 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years. Can you imagine what it's going to be in 2 years from now? That is your reason right there to keep going right now. So yes, these are average sector times and years and experiences, but in 2029, Q-Day does arrive. And so just a quick summary real quick. Again, there is some good news here, right? That's how we migrate. To carry out, 1, archive. Salt Typhoon, Advanced Persistent Threat 29, prove that we have to archive now and start building these C-bomb inventories, these cryptographic bill of materials, these indexes. Again, look at the handshakes. 2, forward secrecy is not a shield. If the adversary captured your TLS 1.3 key exchange, forward secrecy does not protect you against a quantum algorithm that will exploit those keys. And 3, the blocker is visibility. You're going to hear visibility, observability. You can't protect what you can't see. That is a common theme that AI is showing us right today. That, oh my goodness, now I can see this, 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 and this. That's not orchestrated together in my security operations team. 4, do not, and this is a critical one, don't sequence your migration behind the hardware maturity. Don't wait for quantum computers to arrive before you start preparing for them. And the migration runway is not the constraint. The hardware, it's not the hardware timeline. So your migration journey can start truly today. Have those conversations with your vendors. Talk to your ITSM teams. Talk to your N365 administrators. Talk to your application developers, your R&D, your product development teams. Talk to your research groups. This is a solvable problem. And now we're actually going to start seeing cyber insurance even reflect that problem and the criticality of where we are. Let these market drivers influence your decisions as you're now looking to find the budget, find these appropriations, build in these operations into your architecture. And so I'm going to say thank you. This slide can speak for itself. But again, you showed up here on a bright sunny day in Seattle, and I'm incredibly grateful that you all made it out today to hear a lovely talk on post-quantum cryptography, crypto agility, crypto analysis. And if you have any questions then after the talk today, I'm absolutely available to answer what I can. We are now at a new paradigm and a new journey. And if you're entering this space, if you've been in this space a while, take a moment, take a deep breath, and say thank you. Because the globe, the world, humanity needs you to protect this data. This threat's very real. And I'm beyond grateful that you're here today to help join that fight. Thank you so much for your time.